Hello and welcome back everybody. It's Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now let's see what the story is about today. What if you find out the amazingly awesome girl you met in school and just got married has fallen in love with one of her colleagues? We'll call her CR. It's time we listen to the story. Also, if you like what I do, please give this video a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel.
I was 21 and she was just about to turn 19, and we both knew what love was for the first time in our lives. We were both going to a community college, me for theater design and her for education. We lived about half an hour apart, but that was nothing more than a minor inconvenience because we spent every free moment between classes together. Come to think of it, that slight distance was actually pretty nice because being home at least forced us to focus on our homework and taking care of ourselves, and visiting each other at home was that much more special. CR graduated with her associates in 2009 and moved away to a state school to finish up her degree in early childhood special education. Like before, the distance was not a concern because it was a short train ride away and I'd spend 1 or 2 weekends a month down there with her. I proposed to her on Valentine's Day 2010. School wasn't really my thing, and I ended up enlisting in the USAF that following May and got moved halfway across the country to a place neither of us had ever imagined visiting. However, like before, we wouldn't let distance get in our way.
Now, it should be noted that her mom did not like OP. He still doesn't know why, but she always the loudest, rudest, and the most annoying lady he ever met.
She was from the city, and she married into a family of farmers that owned the land since the 1870s, so that may explain part of her malice. From here on, she is EB. Another thing to know is that I have a great memory, and this will be important later on in the story. Anyway, back to the military. I had a 2-week break between my training and leaving for my first and only duty station, which just happened to be over Christmas and New Year's. Even though we were engaged, we hadn't really put any consideration into actually getting married. She wanted something small with her family and cousins, and I was completely okay with going to a courthouse and getting it over with. I don't want to sound like I was trying to pressure her into that, but the way I saw it, I would be living in a barracks in a few weeks, and being married would get me a full monthly housing allowance, which I would save to have a wedding ceremony when we had time in another year or two. Basically, get married now, don't tell anyone, because they would all get upset for not being involved, and have a fake wedding ceremony that would include both of our families and friends. It turns out that because I was living in barracks, I wasn't allowed to collect the housing allowance, and then 6 months later, they realized I was actually married, so they kicked me out and made me get a house on base. Either way, we didn't get married when I was home on leave and took an Amtrak train out west. I highly recommend traveling cross-country by train if you have the time.
The first time OP and CR were able to see each other after that was during her spring break, which was the first part of March.
CR and I finally eloped in a courthouse and spent the next few days glued to each other like every young married couple should. I flew back home for a couple weeks in June, and this is when things started to unravel. Easter Seals, for those who don't know, runs summer camps for special needs kids, and my new wife volunteered to be a counselor for the last 7 weeks of the summer. The last time I saw her that summer was just after her June birthday when I dropped her off at camp. The rest of the summer was hit or miss in getting in touch with her since she was on the clock 24 hours a day for 5 days a week, and I completely understood her commitment to those kids. When she was back in school the following fall, she became increasingly distant, making excuses about how her phone would be randomly dead at oddly predictable times every week. She flew out to spend Christmas with me in our new house, and things felt amazing like they had been. After that, however, she went back to being super reclusive like she was the previous semester.
Fast forward to May 2012. OP took a whole month leave to fly home for her graduation and to help move her with him.
I barely recognized her. Every bit of CR's communication with me was forced and so fake that I should have known what was really happening all along. She had set up what she called mock interviews with a couple grade schools near her hometown, and I actually believed that she was doing it just to get experience interviewing. What an idiot. When I finally started to catch on to how serious she was about getting a job in our home state, she broke down crying and made it seem like I was forcing her to choose between me and her career, and of course, I wanted to put our marriage before anything else. Obviously, I returned to base without her. A couple weeks later, I pressured her into telling me what was going on. She fell in love with one of her fellow camp counselors and let the affair go on for about 9 months, with claims that she was going to tell me but didn't know when, the usual too guilty to tie your own shoes BS, and she honestly expected me to walk away from our relationship right then and there. No, I fought tooth and nail to hold us together for 2 months before filing the divorce.
Now, OP is skipping a bunch of silly details here, but the divorce was filed in late August and became final that December with the mandatory 90-day waiting period in his state.
The pain I suffered in that one-sided relationship is something I would never wish on anybody unless they truly deserved it. Apparently, EB whispered all kinds of lies to her about how I joined the military to get away from her and actually had the gall to blame me for all the crying and misery her oldest child was going through. My soon-to-be ex never admitted who was blaming me for everything, but I was really close to her dad and siblings, so I can't imagine that they would ever suspect me, but EB was so manipulative that by Halloween, they had all turned against me. At that point, I had it. I was really hurtful, and my anxiety were hitting basically every day. I was miserable, tired of being lied to, tired of the insults, tired of being the bad guy when I was the one who was charged here. It started with sending texts to her brothers and sisters saying, "Hey, I'm actually your brother-in-law. Nice to know that we don't keep secrets, right?" CR got really angry, but that was just the beginning. I wrote a 3,000-word letter explaining in every detail I could recall exactly what happened. The fact that we were married, including copies of the marriage license and certificate, our plans for the future, and how I was the only one living up to our expectations, where she met the guy she was behind my back, his name, address, phone number, camp counselor's name, so CR would have a harder time refuting it, and a bunch of other information that she made me keep as secrets from them.
OP sent copies to everyone in her extended family, well, everyone he had an address for, her roommates, summer camp she worked at, close professors she had brought up in old conversations, and the principal of the school she ended up working at.
Calling the fallout catastrophic is an understatement. Her super devout Catholic family basically disowned her. Her reputation at her former school was shattered, and the tension at her new job was apparently high enough that CR was forced to resign from her position before Christmas break started. Getting those secrets off my chest was the most cathartic moment of my life.
End of the story. Well, OP, nicely done. On the bright side, at least you did not waste a huge chunk of your life before finding out what kind of a person she was. You'll do all right. In fact, in the middle of you telling us the story, you took the time to give us a little gem of your life experience and advice that shows us what an optimistic, intelligent, and caring person that you are, and what a bad person she was for throwing that away. I'm sorry that she hurt you so much. Good luck with your new chapter in life. With that, we have reached to the end of the story. It's time for some responses by the beautiful community. The first comment is by Tree Fingers.
I'm sorry, man. I hope you've moved on to someone better. Did she or her family have a reaction when you said all that? OP's reply, silence. My parents still live in the area and are obsessed with checking the local obit section in the news, so I sent her an email when her grandfather died and when November tornado touched down a quarter-mile behind her grandma's house, but not a peep besides that. If she ever decides to reach out to me again, I'll keep it as civil as possible.
Second comment is by Belial77.
Also, kind of glossed over the fact he tried to defraud the government to pay for their wedding. OP's reply, it was explained to me that it was totally okay to be married and living in the barracks, just that you obviously couldn't live with your spouse. I learned that was far from the truth and had to repay about $8,000. It's bad, but I wasn't the only one who believed that. That's far from fraud.
Third comment is by Fionese and Violets.
My ex-husband was in the military. We married before he went to the Middle East. He cheated on me the whole time. He kept the same password for everything, and he voluntarily told it to me as it was the password for the computer. Man, if his family, friends, and the military knew about the things I found, he'd be so over. I made sure I got everything I wanted in that divorce. I still keep many copies of that info in many different places in case I ever need it. It's my own personal restraining order.
Fourth comment is by Hayes1.
My old roommate's older brother did just this. His wife started a relationship with someone she met on a work trip. continued on with this for almost a year before one day she told him that she wanted a divorce and moved a few states away. It took him a long time and a therapist to get his mind around his failed marriage and the divorce, but when he realized that while he could have worked to make the marriage work, it was his ex-wife who ended up cheating. He essentially did the same thing and emailed everyone, not only within their circles, but everyone in her contact list, her employer, and then he took it a step further and shared it with everyone he could find that knew her AP. Last I heard, she basically had to start a new life.
The last comment is by Geld Fro.
I don't excuse her behavior, but am I the only one here who thinks that it's not a very nice thing to do, like move halfway across the world when you are in a relationship with someone? I know it's normalized in the States because of your military system, and yeah, you can probably make it through as a couple, but of course your relationship is going to suffer if you barely see each other for months on end.
Thank you all for listening. Please like, comment and share the video if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.